Good afternoon, I'm Caitlin Elizabeth Bass, and I will be presenting today talking about how the American newspaper industry has gone downhill in the past 20 years. In 2008, the amount of time spent reading a newspaper was averaged out around 31.4 minutes per capita. In 2014, the minutes have decreased to 21.7, and by 2008, the minutes of reading the newspapers per capita will be a dwindling 16.6. In just the amount of 6 years, the minutes that people who spent reading a newspaper went down 9.7%. This is a drastically changing percentage in just 6 short years. Will the American newspaper industry make it into 2034, or will newspapers, actual hard copy newspapers, still be around? The year was 1994, and there was only a few ways to get your news. The American citizens could get their news from television, radio, and of course the newspaper. The newspaper was something everyone looked forward to on the weekdays, especially on Sundays. The 17th Winter Olympic happened in 1994, as well as 4 Arabic men went on trial for the bombing of the World Trade Center. The 11th MTV Music Award had just wrapped up, and Bill Clinton was our president. So many good and bad things happened in 1994. Prices were great. Gas was a whopping $1.09 per gallon. The average house costed $106,000. Milk was $2.29 a gallon. A postage stamp was 29 cents, and bread was only $1.59 a loaf. The price of a newspaper in 1994 did vary depending on the newspaper, as well as the day the newspaper came out. On Sundays, they were more expensive than any other day of the week. The rate of people reading the newspaper was a steady rate. It was neither increasing nor decreasing, and it was still very much so in demand. Growing up, everyone on my road had a blue newspaper box, and every morning the neighbors would get up and get their newspaper around 8 o'clock and get ready to start their day. Technology was not advancing in 1994. The basic electronics for the telephone, some people had what people call the Zach Morris phone for the popular show Saved by the Bell. Many corporations and businesses had computers which were very expensive. Most average people could not afford one just yet. Internet was not even popular in 1994, and if you did have the internet, you could not use the phone and the internet at the same time. Thinking of how things are now and the way we grew up, everything has changed drastically. Welcome to 2014, where most everyone has a smartphone, a tablet of some sort, computer gadgets, watches that tell you how many steps you're taking, to everyone being caught up in their electronics. Those little blue newspaper boxes that everyone once had, you guessed it, most of them are gone. At the local newspaper here in Sampson County, you can ride by their downtown office and see those blue newspaper boxes all thrown out in the back from where so many people have tossed their newspapers to the side for convenience. You're sitting in a rural town in North Carolina. You want to know the news in New York. In just seconds, you can find out what is happening in New York and be able to read all about it. Newspapers are now offering their services online, and some still make you pay a subscription fee, and then some do not. The others are now making revenue from advertising, which is $17.1 billion just this past year. Richard Shambelt wrote, "It would be premature to write the obituary of the American newspaper, but the news about newspaper is surely sobering. Newspaper publishing suffers from long-term secular decline in readership, due largely to increasing competition from other media that appears to be more appealing to the younger demographics conveyed by advertising. Laid on top of that, has a severe general recession that made many weak companies weaker still, and newspapers appear to be among the weakest declining industry in the economy, caught in something of death spiral. Declining readership leads to declining revenue from both circulation and advertising, which leads to desperate cost cutting, revenue, and readership. Less and less we find ourselves reading the newspaper, or rather reaching for an electronic device. Newspapers on a regular day are around $1 to $2, and on Sunday the price goes up to 50 cents to another dollar. The circulation amount is around 4 million 859, 360 for certain newspapers. The circulation rate for the newspaper here in Sampson County is around 10,000, if that. My mother owns one of the 3 newspapers here in Sampson County. This is a free newspaper and is able to continue running off advertising that is sold. She uses social media networks to promote her business. She also puts her newspaper in local businesses around Sampson County, as well as mails them by using Every Door direct mail. My mother, who once worked with the Sampson Independent, saw what was happening to the newspaper industry and that they were being ran by corporations out of state. She saw people losing their jobs and no longer being printed, as well as being created by local people here in Sampson County, and had those jobs for 20 years. She started her newspaper in 2008, and she has been nothing but a success. I had a chance to sit down and actually talk to her on her thoughts of how her newspaper industry was headed, and she said, and I quote, "The newspaper industry is just like anything else. It changes as time changes. Years ago, the only way to get your news was either by TV, newspaper, or radio. I see people every day straying away from the newspaper to technology outlets to get their news out. As time changes, the newspaper industry changes. And if you want to stay ahead and do not put yourself out of business, you have to change with the times and never look back." What she said in the interview says it all. To be able to keep your business alive, especially with the newspaper industry, you have to keep things new and fresh and meet the needs of your readers so that your business has a fighting chance in the years to come. Things have drastically changed from people asking Apple who to do you have the new iPhone 6. As I sit here quietly in this library typing on my MacBook Air, I look around to see other people typing away on their computers and others sitting at computers provided by the college, as well as thousands and thousands of books with inch of dust on them. You may ask yourself why. Because reading newspapers is no longer convenient. Just like going and paying to read the newspaper is no longer convenient. Will the American newspaper still be around for the next 20 years? Or the generations to come be writing about dinosaurs, gas prices, and newspapers, and so many other things that may be extinct? Who knows what will happen in the next 20 years, or if newspapers will be a part of the next time period? This is something we will just have to wait and see what the future has in store. These are the sources that I used to write this paper. They are Schembeck, Richard, Financing the American Newspaper in the 21st Century, Gregory Lee, Milicis, Checking the Pulse of Print Media, Journal of Advertising Research, 2011, page 167 to 175, and it was printed. Martin, John, Kirby, and Climate, the decline of the daily newspaper and the third person effect. Social Science Quarterly, 2014 is when it was published. Page 1245 through 58, and this was printed. And the next two are internet sources that I got a lot of my statistics from. U.S. newspaper industry, 2014, the data accessed is on the website. And Charles R. Grosser, prices in the 90s, the data accessed it, as well as the link to the website. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
What is the name of your local newspaper?
We have 3 local newspapers here in Sampson County. The one I was referring to about the mailboxes was the Sampson Independent. We also have the Sampson Sun, which is ran by my mother, but this is a bi-weekly paper. And then we also have a weekly paper that's called the Sampson Weekly. And those are our 3 newspapers here in Sampson County.
Okay, yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you feel the newspaper industry will be around in 10 years?
I think that the newspaper industry will still be around in the next 20 years. Rather it be maybe on an actual hard copy newspaper like we have today. It might actually just be online, and people will just access it that way, and also, will advertise through the online newspaper sources. Rather it be, actually getting to your door every morning. You're having to pay $2 for the hard copy. I'm not sure if that will still be around. We'll just have to wait and see. Yes.
Question. What demographic would you say is biggest in reading newspapers?
I would say the older demographic is the ones who read the most newspaper, just because, they've had it their whole entire lives. I mean, just like we have, but they didn't have the technological advances that we have now. So they still read the newspapers. I know that my grandparents, they still look forward to their weekly newspaper. And everyone else who might actually want a newspaper, it's just like for maybe coupons or just different things that are going on here in Sampson County that they can't get off the internet just yet. Just deals that local businesses are having. I think that's one of the only reasons that people who are in the younger demographic actually look at newspapers.
Do you think when the middle-aged folks kind of cross over to their older age that they'll kind of revert back to print, or do you think they'll kind of take their technology with them, or?
I don't think so, because they do have their technology. They've grown up with it. Like, I know that I've had a cell phone since I was probably 12 years old, and I still have one now. I've always had a computer. We always had computer classes in elementary school. And, the older population, they didn't have computers. They didn't have cell phones. They had telephones. And they actually had to read, and they, had to look for information. Rather, where our generation, if we want to know something, we'll pick up a tablet and we'll go to Google. We won't pick up a book and actually look for information like, older generations will. So this is something that has definitely changed over the years. So I don't think that as we get older, our generation, we will not revert back to actually reading the newspaper or reading hard copies. Is there any other questions? Thank you all for your time.